Welcome to the IREL podcast. Are you sick and tired of real estate gurus pitching their next pre-construction deal only to find out years later they were completely wrong? Worried the next overseas conference you spend thousands to attend will only be used to sell overpriced lots in deserted developments? Join thousands of other international real estate seekers who are looking for their place in paradise without the sales pitch. Straight from your host, Taylor White.
Hey everybody, and welcome to episode 18 of the IREL podcast. I'm your host, Taylor White. I have really been looking forward to speaking with Graham Hunt from Valencia Properties in Valencia, Spain, and we will get the true story on the Valencia real estate market and have you coming away wanting to investigate its local property market further or cross it off your shortlist entirely and continue listening. Right now from Graham, you will learn the reasons from a very young age he knew the UK wasn't for him and found the perfect mix of climate and lifestyle for his young family in Valencia. The one important thing everyone needs from the Spanish government to buy real estate in order to be perfectly legal. Reveals that 100% of his clientele are foreign buyers and goes into details what percentage many of them are buying for investment. Exposes the specific areas he recommends his clients to consider and explains why these are the best buys today. Breaks down the actual numbers on his client's purchase he just helped with and better explains possible rental returns if they choose to rent it out while away, and much more. And don't forget, if you are listening to this podcast and want to grab Graham's contact details, links on buying or selling Valencia real estate, or any other show notes, head on over to irelpodcast.com/18. Sip on a local Agua de Valencia, kick back with some friends and family, and enjoy listening to Graham as much as I did. In case you can't tell, I'm excited. Let's get Graham on the phone. What is going on, Graham? It's Taylor White. I'm excited to have you on the podcast today, straight from Valencia, Spain, so we can get to know you personally. Tell us more about yourself and where your stomping grounds were before you ended up in Valencia.
Well, hi, Taylor. Nice to speak with you. At a very young age, I was born in the UK, and at a very young age, I decided I didn't want to live in the UK anymore. So I thought, how can I live elsewhere? And for me, that meant going to university and doing Spanish because I'd been to Spain on holiday and I loved Spain. It was it seemed to be a really cool place. So I went to Sheffield University to do Spanish with no other idea than to spend a year abroad during the course and then move to Spain later because in universities in the UK, it's like a sandwich course. You do 2 years in the university, 1 year abroad, and then you go back for the last year.
Oh, wow. How cool.
Yeah. So after university, we lived in northern Spain for 6 years. We lived in a place called Asturias, which isn't very well known at all, which is absolutely beautiful, before going back to the UK for a couple of years because my wife wanted to do a teaching degree. And when we were looking for jobs in Spain, she was offered jobs in Valencia and Madrid, and we've been here since. That was 1998.
Oh, fantastic story, Graham. And so we can get a better idea of you professionally. Give us your brief resume leading up to Valencia Property.
Okay, after university, we went to live in Asturias in northern Spain, and we were working as English teachers in academies. And at that time, if you were English or English speaking, that was more or less the only thing you could do in Spain. There weren't other opportunities for continuous work. It was a 9-month contract as normal, and then you'd go on unemployed for 3 months in the summer. So we went back to the UK when my wife wanted to be a teacher. I studied to be a sports therapist and a coach in the UK while doing a master's degree. And then coming back to Spain, I started working as a sports therapist, and I also started to help people to find rental properties and eventually sales. And that was more or less because lots of agents tried to rip us off when we were buying, and I thought I can do a much better job.
That's a good reason why.
Yeah.
Well, Graham, listeners and I are always fascinated to learn about which countries people have considered and why. Now, let's delve deeper into Spain as a whole and in why you chose Valencia in particular versus other popular Spanish locations.
Okay, very simply put, we chose Valencia because my wife got offered a job here and she got a job in Madrid. And we've both visited both places before and we preferred Valencia to Madrid. We knew of it because of the previous visit. We thought the climate was much better and therefore the lifestyle would suit us better with a young family. It's worked out well. We're very settled here. Valencia's a proper Spanish city. You get a lot of places on the coast in Spain which have a more transient population. They're very full in the summer and totally empty in the winter. And also, Valencia's a beautiful place to look at. It's got a medieval centre, and then it's got ultra-modern buildings in the City of Arts and Sciences. And the modern and the old competes in different areas of the city, which means it's generally a nice place to look at. Saying that, I don't live in the city itself. I'm about 10 miles out to the northwest. But from my door to the car park in the centre is about 20 minutes.
Hey, Graham, if you don't mind, if we're looking at a map, can you kind of tell us where Valencia is located in Spain?
Yeah, it's the southeast corner of Spain, right on the coast. There's a little bit that sticks out on the eastern side, and that's Valencia.
Oh, okay, cool. I like it. Okay, Graham, we have gotten to know you both personally and professionally, reasons why you chose Spain and why Valencia speaks to you. But get ready, because now it's time for us to pick your brain on the local real estate scene and to get the juices flowing. We're going to do a quick round of what I like to call the real estate hot seat. We'll ask you 5 rapid-fire questions, and you give me an answer in 15 seconds or less each. Graham, are you ready for the Valencia hot seat?
Oh, of course, shoot.
All right. What currency is real estate priced in?
Euros. That's an easy one.
Is owning property as a foreigner legal?
Totally. You need a NIE number, which is a Spanish tax number. When you apply for that, for example, in Valencia, it takes about 10 days before you get it.
Can property be titled?
If that means can it be freehold? Yeah.
Yes.
In the UK, it's freehold or leasehold.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Can money flow in and out of Spain easily, or are there currency restrictions?
Unless money's being sent from what Spain considers to be a tax haven or a fiscal paradise, incoming transfers into a Spanish bank are no problem whatsoever. The issue for people from many countries is their country allowing transfers out. China, for example, they've got a limit on daily limits that can come out of the country. Other countries have as well, like South Africa. The States also, for some people, Texas, for example, seems to be a problem.
And as listeners know, Graham, my number one question, what is your favorite local drink?
Agua de Valencia, which is a mixture of orange juice, and that's, of course, Valencia oranges. We're quite famous for those. Cava, which is Spanish champagne, and vodka. It comes in jugs you share between your group, and it's pretty potent. It slips down pretty easily. You want to avoid having a few jugs before you try to stand up, because then you might not be able to.
Well, a few jugs is a lot, though, Graham.
A few jugs is quite a lot, but it depends on the size of your group.
Yeah, that's true. Or it also depends on the size of your jugs.
Exactly.
Okay, Graham, you can now relax, but just a little bit, as you are off the Valencia hot seat. But it's time to zero in on the local real estate scene. Give us your brief synopsis on the Valencia real estate market over the last few years, where it is today, and then where you see it heading for the next few years.
Okay, prices hit peak in 2007. There was about a decade of price increases, and in a lot of cases, prices were rising 20% per year. Since then, prices have dropped around 40%, with some places having reduced even more, making them great bargains. Things that are priced correctly at the moment are now selling around asking price. So we've just had an asking price offer made on a place today, for example. But there are still people living with a 2007 mindset who are selling, and they're asking ridiculous prices. Generally, people are more realistic these days in what they ask for their properties. The big market at the moment, in fact, possibly the only market, is the foreign market, as there's no money in the local market and mortgages are very scarce. Spanish people traditionally asked for 100% mortgages. Well, actually, they asked for more, 120% mortgages, because they want the costs, i.e. the taxes and everything, and also, you know, if you can throw in a car and a cruise, and a cruise, that's great. And the banks didn't
and some
have
groceries.
Well, when the prices were, you know, rising 20% a year, the banks didn't have any problem giving that because they knew by next year you wouldn't be in negative equity. However, because of all the drops in prices now, there are a lot of people who have got it. The banks have major problems after the financial crisis, and they're really, really tight on financing, even for highly qualified clients. 100% of our sales are to foreigners around the whole of Spain, and the foreigners come from the United States, Canada, Northern Europeans, Chinese, Japanese, Middle Eastern countries, Australia, New Zealand, but anywhere really.
And Graham, you have a sold on Spain as a country, Valencia as a location, and then its real estate outlook within the near future. Of course, you don't have a crystal ball. I sure as heck don't. No one does. But that is why I think it's so vitally important to get on the ground insight from local real estate professionals. And yes, I just used the words local and on the ground in the same sentence to drive home a very important fact. Graham, you are not some newsletter writer who might spend a few days in Valencia and then send out emails with hot buys calling yourself an international real estate guru. You are there in the trenches on a daily basis, dealing with local buyers, sellers, agents, lawyers, and every facet of the real estate business. Graham, break this down even further for us. Pretend you are Google Maps or Google Street View. What streets, neighborhoods, or parts of the city are we talking about in Valencia?
Okay, yeah. I mean, I spend most of the days going in and out of Valencia because at the moment, I'd say 60 to 70% of the sales and the people who are inquiring want flats in the city. And the areas that we find are the most attractive to foreign buyers, it depends on what they are doing, whether they're buying to actually, live or whether they're buying to as a rental. But the most attractive areas are probably the Ensanche area. Ensanche is around Calle Salamanca, the Carmen, which is the old medieval center of the city, Rusafa, which is a sort of melting pot of cultures. There's a little bit of a Chinatown there. There's an Arabic area. And there's a lot of Northern Europeans who live there because it's so close to the center. It's a 5-minute walk. I mean, it's cheaper than the center, of course. And then, on the other hand, we get the Malvarosa and the Cabanyal beach areas. You've got to remember, Valencia, years and years and years ago, when it was a medieval town, grew up 4 kilometers inland from the sea because the river was navigable. So the old city is about 4 kilometers away from the sea, but you have got areas that are by the sea, which were the old fishing areas. And these areas are the Malvarosa and the Cabanyal. And they're very popular with investors because property is cheap and the universities are also very near as well. So you get university students renting, you get teachers renting, and then in the summer you can rent them out to people coming down to Valencia Beach. Outside of the city, well, I concentrate on the area to the northwest of the city because of the good transport connections to the center by car and public transport. As I said, from my house to parking in the center of Valencia is about 20 minutes. There's no real massive traffic jams here. It's not like a lot of other cities. Places like La Liana, Bétera, Serra, Liria, Olacao, La Pobla de Vallbona, which is my town, they tend to be popular, and you're sort of surrounded by orange groves and almond groves, and you're just 15 to 20 minutes, maybe 25 to 30 minutes at the outside from the city.
Hey, Graham, off the top of your head, what percentage of buyers do you think are buying to live there, and what percentage are buying to maybe do a vacation rental to let it out and that kind of thing?
I'd say it's about 50-50 more or less at the moment. Last year it was skewed more towards buyers, but in the last couple of months we've noticed quite a lot of investors coming in because they're getting really good returns on the money. But also apart from that, and this is very important, Spain put a new thing in place it was November it came in, where if you spend over 500,000 euros, you can get residency automatically from outside the European Union. So, for example, Americans, they can get residency in Spain if they spend 500,001 euros. But you can buy one or many units to make up that amount. So we're getting quite a few people who are buying a decent place a decently priced place to live in, and they're getting cheap places to rent out to get higher returns to build up the portfolio of over 500,000. So I'd say it's about 50-50 now.
Huh, wow, that's great. So now that we have specific locations in mind, what types of properties do you recommend? And first, let me give you a few brief examples of what I mean. Are we talking about buying pre-construction units for capital appreciation that we flip? Are we talking about buying completed apartments, houses, or office spaces to generate rental income? Or are we talking about buying land to either sell as is or subdivide into smaller tracts? Graham, give us a better idea about what you're talking about and recommending today.
Okay, we tend to sell completed units for living or for holiday use or for renting out. Single houses on their own plot with gardens and pool because the weather's good and people want a pool. Yeah, that's when
Absolutely.
That's when it's in the case of houses. Yeah, when it's a city apartment, we're talking about flats, it tends to be flats in the city rather than in the villages around.
Right.
But with so much available property for sale as a hangover of the huge building boom, I mean, it's estimated there are about 1.5 million properties for sale in Spain at the moment.
What's the population of Spain?
The population, the estimates are around 46 to 47 million. It's, the census isn't quite as good as in other countries.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Just check.
But because there seems to be about 1.5 million properties, most of them were built for the holiday market and for Northern Europeans, and the location isn't great. I would prefer to sell a unit that's already been used and people can find the location and see it and touch it, rather than buying one off plan. Because seriously, if you can't find a place that you like in 1.5 million, you're not going to like what they build for you either.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Also, the lack of finance doesn't help, because if you go to a bank and ask for a mortgage on a particular property, they'll probably say, well, we won't give you a mortgage on that, but we've got these ones we've repossessed. We will give you a mortgage on those. Right. Yeah. For investors, we sell a lot of cheap apartments, especially near Valencia Beach. We're getting up to 10, even 12% return for one client with long-term rentals, and that one I can tell you the exact amounts. We sold a place a few months back for 37,300 euros. The modernisation cost 1,700 euros, so 39,000. With the costs of purchase and the taxes, you're looking at 44,000 income, and he's getting 420 euros a month on rental.
Hey, do you mind if I ask you the size of that apartment?
That particular apartment is 80 meters, 800 square feet, I think it is in feet. Yeah, it's 80 meters. Right. Yeah.
That's actually very big for the cost per meter.
Yeah, exactly. This is the thing. The properties down by the beach are generally quite cheap in that way. But we can get 5 to 7% returns relatively easily on medium to long term. But the other thing is we're looking at the potential for capital appreciation long term as well. My personal opinion about land is that the land is overvalued. It's difficult to do a project and build and make money at the moment, as the finance isn't in place either for the project or the potential buyers once you get to sell it. So I'm tending to avoid that at the moment.
So, Graham, now I'm going to hit you up with a two-part question that I know everyone wants to know, and you have to give us a general range, so with some price points in mind. Here they are. Part one, what would be the price range of what we are talking about? Maybe give us a starting price point at the low end and a final price point at the high end. And, Graham, just to clarify, I'm talking about total purchase price.
Okay. Property in the city starts, let's say the lowest price would be a flat by the beach, maybe 40,000 euros would be the lowest you could find around there. Once you factor in taxes, the Valencian regional government in its infinite wisdom put up tax from 8 to 10% recently. Stupid.
Wow.
Yeah. So you've got another 4,000 on top of that. Your costs, real estate costs, real estate agents will charge 3% in general, but anything at that price, they'll have a minimum of, say, 2,500 or something, yeah? Because in Valencia, the buyer pays. Yeah, the seller also pays, but not in my business. I do the work for the buyer to get them the lowest cost. But in general, both buyer and seller pay the real estate agent. Yeah. So if you get a 2-bedroom apartment down by the beach, for 40,000, the total cost would be around 47,500. Yeah, maybe needs a little work. You can get lower, but you really wouldn't want those units, as they would be difficult to rent out. They're in buildings where maybe there's a problem or there's some squatters or something like that. If you go for a central Valencia attic flat, for example, you'd be looking at 200,000 euros maybe for 2 bedrooms with a terrace. Can range up to 1 million euros or more, and it depends on the size, location, the street it's on, whether it's facing the east to get morning sun, whether it's facing north so it doesn't get any sun, etc. Right. Yeah. Outside the city, the further you get from the city, the cheaper the price. So you've got a sort of ripple effect as you come out of the city. Now, where I live, a comfortable distance from the city, a 4-bedroom attached house or a terraced house with a common pool built a couple of years ago may set you back 170,000 euros, and a 150-meter house on a 2,000-meter plot, which is standard, costing around 300,000 euros in total.
Oh, wow. Okay, so let's transition to a part two on that, Graham. What would be the cost per meter? Again, maybe a starting price point at the low end, final price point at the high end. And, Graham, this is just kind of a general range, as I know it's very, very tough.
Yeah, and it's a very large range. We have properties from as little as 500 euros per square meter. The example I gave before was around that price. And really good locations in the centre where there is Spanish demand still, because Spanish people have got money, but in the richer people have still got money and they've still got the demand. So you might be looking at 8,000 euros a square metre. The average, for example, in the Carmen, which is the medieval center of the city, in 2007, I know this for a fact, reached 3,411 euros per square meter on average. Those prices are around the 2,000 euros mark now.
And then for listeners like me who are used to dealing in square feet, divide the number you hear by 10.76 or maybe just a flat 10 to keep it easy, and you get close enough numbers to get an idea of what Graham is referring to.
It is correct.
Okay, Graham.
Just do it by 10 and you'll be fine.
By 10's close enough, right?
Yeah.
Okay, Graham. This is a question I like to call, what would sister do? My sister calls you up, says she has X amount of dollars to spend. You know, you can't let my sister down, Graham. Share with us 3 specific examples you would show her and explain why these make sense.
Okay, let's assume your sister does certain things, right? Let's say she has 250,000 euros. I'd want to get inside her head and actually get to know what her expected lifestyle is first before even talking about the property. Yeah. So does she like the vibe of the city, or does she want a quiet life overlooking orange groves? Is she a beach person, a culture vulture? You know, once we establish her expectations for a lifestyle, then we'd start to look at potential property that fits that lifestyle. And more importantly, the areas of the city or outside the city that give her that lifestyle, because people have got expectations about what Spain is like. Yeah,
absolutely.
The property itself becomes almost incidental once the other questions are answered, because then it's much easier to find a property for someone. So let's assume she likes sport, culture, and socializing, just to say 3 things. Yeah. I would be suggesting, for example, a central Valencia attic apartment near to the riverbed, which is a 9-kilometre long park from the City of Arts and Sciences at one end to the Biopark Zoo at the other end, that has all sorts of sports and activities going on, from jogging, cycling, football, soccer, all the way through to baseball, tai chi, everything in between. Yeah. Wherever she would be in the old part of the city, she'd only be a few minutes away from that, and she'd be a few minutes away from the nightlife scene in the city. And then she'd have the outside space as well for making use of on nice evenings when the weather's nice, it's sultry, socializing with friends before going out on your own terrace in the city. Now, if she's more of a sailing water sports type person, then a beach apartment near the metro lines to get into the city. We've got an underground and an overground metro, for example. That might fit better. If a thing is walking in the countryside and mountains, then maybe a house in the Turia Valley, which is the area to the northwest where I live, overlooked by the Sierra Calderona Mountains and National Park and surrounded by orange, lemon and almond groves. There's such a wide disparity of choice, but every single time I want to get inside the head of the person first.
So, Graham, we are laser focused on specific areas of Valencia. We know our starting price point. We have an idea of cost per meter. We have 3 specific examples, which are good enough even for my sister. Now, let me ask you an obvious question. How do we buy? Do we need to come in with all cash, whether that's from our checking account, home equity line of credit, or retirement funds? Or can we come in with a certain percentage down and get local financing from a bank or credit union?
Okay, first, you need a bank account here in Spain, so you can transfer your funds into Spain, as this is the safest way of payment. What you'll do is you'll get a bank draft from your bank, take that to the notary's office. On completion, you swap the draft for the keys. Yeah. We need the NIE number I mentioned before, so you've got to apply for the NIE number and wait 8 to 10 days to get it. Once you find a place and you agree a price, then you get a lawyer to check the place out. Do not trust your real estate agent, even if it's me. Yeah, you speak to a lawyer and the lawyer checks out the property. Yeah, lots of people who got into problems in Spain, it's because they trusted the real estate agent or the developer who were totally lying to them. Yeah, so get an independent lawyer. Yeah, only when the lawyer says, yes, you can put down a deposit, you put down a deposit. Now, in this area in Valencia, it might be 6,000 to 12,000 euros, and that binds both parties. The owner receives the deposit, but if they pull out of the deal, they have to pay double back. If you pull out of the deal, you lose your deposit. Yeah, and this is why we say until the lawyer says yes, you don't go ahead with it.
Right.
Now, that deposit contract would have a completion date within 30, 60 days, for example, although longer time periods can be got if you've got a higher deposit. And at the end of that 60-day period, or 30-day period, or whatever it is, you go to the notaries within the 60 days, not at the end, within the 60 days. You go to the notaries and sign before the notary, hand over the rest of the cash, and the owner hands over the keys, and all the documentation for the property is done by the notary. The notary is a government employee, so it's a very important role.
Right.
Okay?
And then, Graham, if you don't mind, how easy or hard is it to open a bank account in Spain currently?
It's Relatively easy. It depends on the bank you go to. Some of the banks will not let you open it until you've got the NIE number, but some will as a non-resident. So if you can go, for example, the Banco de Santander, which is probably the biggest Spanish bank, and the BBVA, you can walk in and open up an account. Some of the other banks will say, okay, we need to know more about you, etc. You walk into the BBVA and Santander, you open your account and you say, I'll send some money over from my account in the US or wherever it is next week. Yeah?
So you don't ever have any problems with people that want to buy places, but then they can't get a bank account so they can wire money into it?
Never.
Never. Okay.
Never. The only issue is if the police, see, because what they do, you open a non-resident account and you're given all the details and the internet banking details and everything. You usually deposit €50 in the bank because the bank needs to, because it is a non-resident account, they need to get the police to do a check to check you are a non-resident, that you're not already a resident. Yeah? And
why does that really matter?
It doesn't, but it's Spain. They just do things like that.
Right.
But the fact is the police could find, for example, that you've got a criminal record in Spain or something like that, and then the bank account will be closed. We've never had a client like that, but it could happen, yeah, that there's a problem. We've never had that problem. You also mentioned about funding there.
Absolutely.
If you are not a cash buyer, it's possibly easy to get funding on a current asset in your home country than here, because, as I said before, funding is tight in Spain at the moment. It's possible, but you need to prove the affordability criteria. For example, you need to be earning 3,000 if they're going to give you 1,000 a month, for example, or rather if it's going to cost you 1,000 a month. Now it'd be more, you need to be showing income of 5,000 if they're going to give you 1,000 a month, or if you're going to pay 1,000 a month. Expect to be asked for lots and lots of paperwork and to get a maximum these days of around maybe 50 to 60% on the cost of the property. However, you can get a higher amount if you are buying a property that is owned by the bank that has been repossessed, because they want to get it off the books. When it's been repossessed, it's a liability. When they give you a mortgage, it's an asset.
So, Graham, anyone who has ever owned real estate can tell you, you need to have a money exit strategy in place even before you buy. It's something what I like to call, where's the cheddar? You are buying the property to do what with it to make some money. So, Graham, where's my cheddar?
Well, the cheddar often isn't the money, but the usage and the lifestyle rather than the out position here. We sell a lot of properties to people who live in them, yeah, and really their idea is to live here for a very long time, and therefore it doesn't matter to them about what's an out position because they can't predict the market 10 years, 20 years in the future. They've got no intention of moving. However, if you're looking to make money through renting, we suggest buying a selection of properties rather than putting all of the investment into just one, however nice it may look. And rental returns are better on lower priced properties when you're talking percentages. There's the possibility of buying, renovating and selling to make money, but with tax currently at 10% on purchase, you need to make sure that the original purchase is a really good deal. Obviously, as you know, you make money when you buy, not when you sell.
There's no doubt about that. All right, Graham, I wanted to thank you for taking the time to share with us about Valencia real estate. We have heard about your journey, why you chose Spain, exact areas of Valencia to focus on, price points to look out for, specific examples good enough even for my sister, a money strategy to purchase, and then what we might do with it after the fact to make some cheddar. Unfortunately, it's time to say goodbye. But before we do, share with us easy ways to get a hold of you, any parting advice you might want to share, and then let's say goodbye.
Okay, it's been a pleasure, Taylor. Let's see. You can keep in touch with me in many, many ways. My website is www.valencia-property.com for Valencia, or www.spanish-property.net for Spain. I have a project for those looking to get Spain's golden visa, and we've got all the information of how to get it at SpanishResidency.co. That's .co as in Colombia. Yeah, I'm on Twitter, and I'm on Twitter a lot at Grayhunt. That's GRAHUNT. And if you just tap me up on Twitter and ask any questions, I'll put you in touch with my Skype number and everything. Facebook, facebook.com/Valencia Property. My Skype, which we're using at the moment, is Graham VP. Phone 0034 for Spain, and then 657994311. For people from the UK, I've also got a UK number. Email's probably the best on the personal one rather than the company one, because I check that, unfortunately, every 2 minutes. And that's grayhunt@gmail.com. That's GRAHUNT, like my Twitter name, @gmail.com.
Awesome, Graham. I've really enjoyed this conversation, straight from Valencia, Spain to our earbuds, and I hope we can catch up again in 3 to 6 months.
Yeah, it's been great. I'm looking forward to hearing back from you. And if anyone has any questions, just hit me up on any of the above methods and we can chat. Spain's a cool place to live and it's a great place to have a property.
I want to thank Graham once again for his fantastic take being on the ground in Valencia, Spain. After having on so many Latin American insiders, it was really exciting and refreshing to have on someone from Europe, and I can't wait to get him back on the show again soon with more specific Valencia real estate investments he believes you need to hear about right now. If you are listening to this podcast and want to grab Graham's contact details, links on buying or selling Valencia real estate, or any other show notes, head on over to irelpodcast.com/18. If you're a real estate owner, agent, or developer, and you have real estate for sale or rent, I encourage you to list it with us. Whether you have a coffee farm in Guatemala, a city apartment in Vietnam, or a family house in Valencia, Spain, we have the renters and buyers you are looking for. Head on over to irelpodcast.com/18 for more details.
You have been listening to the IREL Podcast with Taylor White. Be sure to hit up irelpodcast.com for more. That's irelpodcast.com. Thanks for listening.